We often talk about the lifeblood of a company,
Yeah.
right? And maybe you think profits or operational efficiency.
Yeah, those are common thoughts.
But what if the real core, the essence of a thriving company, isn't just about optimizing? What if it's about relentless forward momentum?
That's an interesting angle.
Yeah, there was this 2014 KPMG study, pretty eye-opening. It found 72% of CEOs said focusing on growth was more important for their company's well-being than even operational efficiencies.
72%. Wow, that's a big number. More important than efficiency.
Exactly. So it begs the question, doesn't it? In today's business world, how do companies actually prioritize that growth? And maybe more importantly, how do they achieve it?
And that leads us right into our topic today.
It does. It leads us straight to a role that's, well, it's really gaining ground fast. It's the chief growth officer.
Sometimes called the Chief Business Development Officer, but yeah, the CGO.
Right. And that's what we're diving into today. Our mission really is to understand the purpose, the responsibilities, the authority.
The skills needed.
Exactly. All of it. Especially for you listening, if you're in business development. Understanding this role is key to figuring out how growth actually happens at the top.
We're drawing heavily from the analysis in the episode 25 Chief Growth Officer's document. It gives a really solid framework for understanding this role.
Okay, let's start unpacking it then. What's the CGO's fundamental mission? Like, what's their core purpose and where do they actually sit in the company structure? It sounds bigger than just sales.
Oh, much bigger. The central mission, as our source lays it out, is really about strategically allocating the company's resources
Okay, allocating resources for what purpose?
to maximize how customers perceive quality and the company's overall value. It's subtle, but important. It's not just about boosting sales numbers today.
So it's about perception and long-term value built on that perception.
Precisely. And the positioning is fascinating. In companies that are truly growth-focused, the CGO is often seen as a first among equals.
First among equals. What does that mean practically? Does their decision override, say, the COO or CFO sometimes?
It can, yes. Their strategic decisions on growth initiatives might actually take priority. It shows a real commitment to that forward momentum we talked about.
That's a big statement about priorities. How does that not cause chaos? You can imagine some friction there.
Right, and that's where the CEO steps in. Think of the CEO as the strategic deconflictor.
The deconflictor, I like that.
Figure 1 in our document kind of shows this. CEO at the top, balancing the CGO who's focused on revenue.
With the COO and CFO who are naturally focused on managing expenses.
Exactly. The CEO balances revenue push and expense control to hit the company's overall financial goals. And fundamentally, the CGO's focus on smart resource allocation is what drives that long-term shareholder value.
Which might contrast a bit with the COO, CFO's often shorter-term focus.
It can, yeah. They often have more immediate pressures, quarterly results and such. The CGO has that longer horizon view.
Okay, that paints a clearer picture. So long-term view, focus on the growth path. And they're not just setting targets, they're actually making it happen.
Absolutely. They have both strategic and operational responsibility. They need to implement what our source calls the brand trust flywheel.
The brand trust flywheel. Tell me more about that.
Think of it like a virtuous cycle. Good customer experiences build trust. The trust brings in more customers or repeat business, which leads to more positive experiences and so on. It reinforces itself.
Okay, a self-reinforcing cycle of trust and growth.
Exactly. And the CGO needs to make sure that flywheel is spinning effectively across all customer interactions. They do this by embedding the business development growth model principles throughout the entire customer lifecycle. It's about integrating growth thinking everywhere.
Right, not just a silo department. It's a mindset across the organization.
Precisely.
Okay, so we've got the why and the where. Let's get into the what's. What are the CGO's specific day-to-day or maybe week-to-week responsibilities? Figure 2 in the document seems to list these out.
It does, quite clearly. First up is prospect and customer communication. Often the CGO is the most senior contact point.
For big clients or potential big clients?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And they also coordinate if the CEO needs to get involved directly. It highlights how important those top-level relationships are for growth.
Makes sense. An executive champion for customer relationships. What else?
Personnel management is another big one. Coaching, managing, incentivizing the whole growth team.
So a real leadership component. Building and motivating the team that's actually driving growth.
Absolutely. Then there's identification. This is about deciding, should we enter this new market? Should we make this big investment to chase this opportunity?
So strategic decision-making about where to play requires real market insight.
Definitely. They're helping shape the company's future direction, not just executing today's plan.
Okay. What's next on the list?
The entire business development value chain. The CGO oversees this, acting as the source calls it the chief customer champion.
Chief Customer Champion. I like that. Advocating for the customer internally.
Yes, ensuring the customer's voice is heard and central to the growth strategy at every single step. Technology is also key.
Yes. Can't escape tech these days.
Nope. The CGO ensures the business development tech stack, CRM, marketing automation, analytics tools, all of it is efficient and effective. In today's world, you just can't scale without good tech driving things.
Absolutely critical for optimization and scale. What about operations?
Yep, operations falls under them too. Specifically, making sure all the functions involved in what the source calls business development integration activity work together seamlessly.
Business development integration activity. So like marketing, sales, customer success.
Exactly. All those pieces need to align perfectly for the best customer experience. No drop balls, smooth handoffs. It's about that holistic view.
Okay. Ensuring a smooth journey for the customer.
Right. And finally, business planning. The CGO leads the creation of the implementation plan for the business development growth model for the whole company. That's the roadmap.
The master plan for growth, basically.
That's a good way to put it. It aligns everyone's efforts towards those big growth goals.
Wow. Okay. That is a very broad set of responsibilities. You really need to understand a lot of different parts of the business. So to actually do all that, what kind of authority do they have? Figure 3 seems to touch on this.
It does. And figure 3 really shows their influence. Take marketing, for instance. The CGO often works very closely with the CMO.
Or even directs the CMO.
Yes, potentially direct control or very close collaboration to make sure marketing efforts are really maximizing prospect awareness and, crucially, intent throughout that whole BD value chain.
Intent, not just awareness. Okay.
Same idea with sales. The CGO monitors the deal flow, works with the CRO again, collaborating or maybe controlling to squeeze the most out of conversion rates.
So real teeth. Not just advising, but potentially directing these core revenue functions.
Exactly. And it extends further. Pricing they collaborate with, or direct pricing leaders to make sure pricing strategy supports awareness, intent, and conversion.
Makes sense. Pricing is a huge lever.
Huge. Contracting, too. They get involved to ensure deals move smoothly and efficiently. No bottlenecks there.
Okay. What about after the sale? Customer development.
Yep. They monitor customer perception closely. They work with or guide the account management teams to keep those perceptions positive. It's that crucial feedback loop for loyalty and improvement.
It feels like they're connecting all the dots, making sure everything works together towards growth.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
Looking at product development, they monitor how customers perceive the product, then work with the CPO to maximize that perceived quality and feed in new customer requirements.
So influencing the product roadmap based on customer feedback and growth goals?
Right. Then there's corporate development, working with the CDO on M&A strategy for entering new markets, community development, deciding on partnerships, resource allocation for community building, audience growth,
Very strategic.
and customer experience, or CX. They monitor the CX metrics, work with the CXO to jump on any negative perceptions and fix them
Closing the loop constantly.
constantly. And even personnel management, again, collaborating with the chief people officer on incentives for the growth team, influencing team structure for optimal performance.
It really is an orchestration role, isn't it? Pulling levers across the entire organization, all focused on growth. So with all this responsibility and authority, what skills does someone actually need to be a CGO? Figure 4 lists quite a few.
It does. And interestingly, the source notes that direct BD experience, like being a quota-carrying rep, isn't strictly required.
Oh, really? That is interesting.
Yeah, but deep expertise in some part of that business development integration activity, we talked about marketing, product, customer success, that's valuable.
Yeah.
But figure 4 highlights some core skills that are just essential.
Like what? What's at the top?
Empathy. Really understanding market needs, customer pain points, and driving that product market fit. And ethics, non-negotiable adherence to the BD professional code of ethics.
Foundational stuff. Empathy and ethics. Makes sense.
Absolutely. Then purpose, having a personal sense of purpose that aligns with the company's mission, that's seen as a key driver,
Alignment of values.
right? Competency and proficiency, just knowing your stuff across tactical, operational, and strategic BD activities. Communication is huge. Being concise, compelling, whether you're talking to the board or the front lines.
And research skills.
Crucial. For leading market research, figuring out viable markets, building solid business plans based on data, not just gut feel, and of course, being a strategic leader, you have to be able to create and execute winning growth strategies.
Okay, those sound like core leadership traits. What about skills more specific to the growth function itself?
Networking comes up, connecting stakeholders, customers, internal teams, community partners for mutual benefit. Social selling is increasingly important too.
Building that online presence, delivering value digitally.
Exactly. Creativity, you need to be able to solve complex problems for stakeholders. Persistence, seeing those big long-term goals through to the end,
Definitely need persistence for a role like
for
this.
sure. And data analytics. You have to be curious, constantly digging into the why behind customer behavior and company performance. Can't just look at surface level numbers.
Data-driven curiosity.
Yes. Product and technical proficiency are also climbing the list. Understanding the product deeply, communicating its functions, maybe even leading tech implementations. Tech is just so central now.
It really is.
And finally, coaching. Being able to analyze performance, team, and individual, and give constructive feedback to help everyone improve.
Wow, that is quite the list. A CGO needs to be incredibly well-rounded, strategic, analytical, technical, empathetic, a leader, a coach.
It's a demanding role, no question, which underlines its importance.
So speaking of importance, let's talk value. What's the tangible impact? And when does a company actually need a CGO? The document mentions compensation, which hints at the value placed on it.
Right, the compensation reflects the perceived value. The source mentions an average salary around $281,000, plus a bonus averaging over $76,000, and often equity on top of that.
So significant investment from the company.
Definitely. Now, when do you need one? It really depends on the company's stage. In a startup, the need is usually low.
Founders wearing many hats.
Exactly. The CEO, or maybe an early versatile BD person, often acts as the de facto CGO until they've really nailed product market fit.
Okay, that makes sense. What about when the company starts scaling?
That's the growth phase. As you capitalize on proven markets, expand the BD team, maybe start looking at adjacent markets, the need for a dedicated CGO starts getting stronger. Things get more complex.
Complexity drives the need for dedicated leadership.
Precisely. Then comes the expansion phase, entering new geographies, really diversifying. Here, the need for a strategic CGO is high, maybe even critical.
To lead that charge into the unknown.
Yes, to lead the discovery and exploitation of new markets and to integrate BD processes across a more complex, larger organization.
And then maturity.
In the maturity phase, when market penetration is high and growth slows naturally, the need might decrease again. Maybe focus shifts to efficiency, automation, defending share, rather than aggressive expansion.
So the CGO role really shines during those high growth, high change phases.
That seems to be the sweet spot. And there's data to back up the impact. The document mentions a 2019 study by Singular.
Ah, yes, the singular study. What did that find about the ROI of having a CGO?
Some really interesting correlations. Companies with CGOs tended to be in mobile-focused, tech-heavy sectors. They had marketing teams almost twice as large on average.
Twice as large, wow. And they spent more.
Spent more on advertising, yes. And they had a strong appetite for really granular customer-level marketing data.
Data hungry.
Very. But maybe the most telling findings were about investment priorities. CGO-led companies were 36% more likely to prioritize new skills training for their teams,
Investing in people.
and 65% more likely to invest in new marketing tech. Plus, 48% more likely to build their own AI and machine learning tools for marketing.
Okay, those are significant differences. It paints a picture of CGO-led firms being more data-driven, tech-forward, and focused on upskilling.
It really does. It strongly suggests a CGO brings a strategic focus on leveraging data, technology, and talent development specifically for growth. They champion those investments.
That makes a compelling case for the strategic value, especially in today's environment.
Absolutely. The findings link having a CGO to being more adaptive, more technologically sophisticated in your approach to the market.
Okay, this has been a fantastic deep dive. So for everyone listening, particularly those in business development, what are the top, say, 3 takeaways about the Chief Growth Officer role?
Okay, top 3. First, I'd say it's absolutely clear the CGO is a crucial strategic role, way beyond just sales management, the core mission. Maximize customer perception of value and drive long-term growth through an integrated BD approach across the whole company.
Right. Integrated is the key word there. What's number 2?
Number 2, they have real authority. They're empowered across marketing, sales, product, CX, all the key growth levers to actually implement strategy. And the skills needed are broad. Strategic thinking, analytics, customer empathy, strong leadership, not just sales chops.
Got it. Authority and a broad skill set. And the final takeaway.
Number 3 connects back to that singular study. Investing in a CGO, especially when you're in those growth and expansion phases, seems strongly correlated with a bigger focus on tech, on data-driven marketing, and on developing new skills in your team. The evidence suggests it pays off.
A strategic investment linked to future-focused capabilities. Excellent summary. So as you think about your own organization, where it is on its growth journey, how its leadership is structured, maybe ask yourself this. Could a dedicated chief growth officer be the catalyst you need, the key to unlocking that next stage of expansion and really deepening those customer connections? And if so, what would you look for in that leader? Something to think about.
Definitely food for thought.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive today.